In the late 1990s, an adaptation for R.L. Stine's horror book series for children, Goosebumps, at the height of its popularity, was trying to be made. Tim Burton was at one point attached to direct the film, as we know from my previous Shadows of the Unmade, but he wanted to work on Superman Lives instead. However, during its lifetime, around 1998, he was still set to produce the film with an option to direct it if he was ever interested. Well, rewinding a bit, and George Romero was very interested in making a film adaptation of the book series, and Fox set the film for a Halloween 1996 release. Unfortunately, very little is known about the behind the scenes of the early aborted project, and the best I can give is what the film was going to be about. Romero's script was essentially a 124-page adaptation of the first book, Welcome to Dead House, that debuted in 1992. The novel is about the Benson family, where the kids, Josh and Amanda, figure out that the town they're in is populated with the living dead due to a mysterious gas that escaped and infected the town. The later twist is that the family that moves in are used as a feeding source for the entire town so that they can remain alive. Due to being a very short novel, George Romero fleshed out various aspects and tweaked various attributes to make the film work better for the big screen, as well as catering to his own sensibilities. For instance, there was a concept that Romero tried using in various aspects of his films that were never developed, which was the idea of a sentient house. In this case, the house fed off of its inhabitants in a supernatural force controlled by someone named Foster DeVries, which is another changed aspect in Romero's script. Unlike the novel, the reason for the zombification was a supernatural power controlled by DeVries, who is dead. His spirit has taken over the house, as well as imposing zombification on the entire town. After the energy has been sucked out of its alive inhabitants, they become part of the undead townsfolk and sustain the rest of the town for another year. This was meant to be a social commentary on capitalism, as Romero usually puts social commentary into every one of his films. By escaping the town, this means the end of DeVries' hold on the town, along with the people that are still loyal to him, with the main perpetrator as Compton Dawes. Another big change was that Dark Falls was going to be a company town, with heavy reliance on their existence devoted to DeVries despite being undead. Obviously, the things that fall into this are never leaving the city and giving him a family to feed on every year. There are also ideas of loss of independence woven into here as well, prominent in what I've mentioned before, as well as the undead children growing resentful of never being able to grow up, and to their parents who must be obedient to DeVries. Another aspect is the character of Josh, who is tempted by Dawes to join them prematurely before he officially becomes undead. However, by the end of the script, the children, including Dawes' daughter Karen, eventually vanish but are thankful towards Josh that he gave them a future. "We saw you as a threat to us," she says, "because that's the way our parents saw you. We shouldn't have believed them." Josh sees that they have begun to fade away and gets emotional, yelling, "What's happening? Where are you going?" To which Karen responds, "Into the future. We just wanted to thank you, Joshua, for giving us that future, for giving us back our lives. We'll never forget you. Never." It's definitely a very dark scene, especially for a children's film. While the kids don't die, the ramifications of what Josh did and the future that is mentioned means that they definitely did in some way die. But the quote definitely brings back the idea of anti-capitalism, because with this death they are now free to do whatever they want in an eluded afterlife, as well as the residents being in a permanent limbo of not getting the sweet release of death, but also not being able to live fully. This was definitely an interesting take on things. I'm sure at the very least it would have been a good time. It might have been a bit too much, but it's hard to discern how a completed project would be by only hearing snippets of the story and its ideas. Hell, even reading an entire script wouldn't be able to really grab those aspects fully. But I do love George Romero, and I think it could have been a case, if woven into the narrative properly, could have been a kids film that would have had something that kids would have enjoyed, but adults could have gotten something from it as well, especially ones that worked the soul-crushing jobs that Romero was commenting on, especially in corporate 90s America. The ideas are there and sounded really good, like with most Romero canceled projects. However, it might have been a bit disappointing to some fans of the series that they didn't get to see multiple stories adapted for the big screen with an anthology movie, as it was an anthology book series. That might have been the biggest thing that people would have had a problem with, or it might have been a bit too adult for a kids movie, even if the target audience was older than, say, children, preteens, but that still falls into the net of children. However, it was not meant to be, as it was eventually canceled for unknown reasons because, as I said, very little is known about the actual project, especially the reason for the cancellation. Goosebumps did eventually get a film adaptation in 2015 directed by Rob Letterman, which was a very meta-driven film. It did not feature any proper adaptations of the source material, with a fictionalized R.L. Stine, played by Jack Black, and his writing being so powerful that the manuscripts for his works become real-life monsters. Despite not being a proper adaptation, it received positive reviews and was a commercial success. Because of this, it got a sequel which received mixed reviews and was not as successful, as well as a spin-off TV series which also did not feature proper adaptations of the source material, unlike the original TV series. None of these projects took notes from Romero's original ideas/script. But that does it for this episode of Shadows of the Unmade. See you next time.